Hi there. It's Christmas, and but I'm a complete atheist. I don't believe in God. I'm not very intellectual about it. I read holy scriptures of the Quran and the New Testament and the Old Testament and Bhagavad Gita and whatever else, just looking for a nice language and a little bit of understanding what was going on. And finally, I understood it. These are all franchises, and some have a political purpose, others have a control purpose, and others again have a very real human benefit. And I guess if you want to know a little bit about how religion and I guess the one of Jesus, what the sense in it is that you at that time, for the first time, you had large groups of people that lived together in cities. You didn't have that before. Before you had all people being farmers and having to be strong against each other, having real possessions that really kept them alive, being truly productive. Even though they were poor, they were. That was basically a matter of how well you controlled your environment, how good your moral judgment was. If your moral judgment was bad, then you would make mistakes. You get enemies, you get slaughtered, and all that stuff. So, but people lived in cities, and food was brought in from the land, and I guess there was an organization, economy, and I think that people, that the mind was not really ready for that, so it was ready for having an authority and being in a family. And many people fell out of that system, the poor people, and I guess that was the demography that Jesus was directing his talks to. And you know that because these prayers they talk about, give me my daily bread, so give me something to eat. That was for poor people, and I think that what he did was very, I guess, very contemporary if you look at today. And the most important thing and the most interesting thing that he did was tell people not to feel guilty. So this is, let's say, ask for forgiveness, and you will get forgiveness, which is which is a simple way to say you don't have to feel guilty about anything. That's good, because if you feel guilty about being poor, which these people were, and being outcast, which is like a social negative, but it's non-denominated social negative, you could say. Let's say I'm thrown out of a family, then I feel bad about that because I want to be part of that family. But if you're thrown out of society, you cannot be part. That society consists of many families. Then you cannot be part of society. There's nothing you can do to become that. So it's a dereferenced kind of guilt, and it should be abolished. And that's what I guess you do when you ask for forgiveness. It's also a brilliant use of virtual reality, because you say, well, there's a father, which you should have, but you don't. But you pretend you have one. And then there's a mother, which you should have, but you don't. She has a role emotionally and motivationally, normally, but you don't have her, so pretend you have her. So that's God in heaven, and he's your father. Pretend you have a father, ask for forgiveness, and he'll give it. Brilliant. And that's what he did. He basically installed a virtual reality environment into the minds of the people that followed him, and because he did that, they were very thankful and grateful, and they felt much better, and they felt stronger, because, you know, of course, if you feel guilty, you reduce your capacity to deal with the world, and you might even destroy yourself. And if you feel guilty because you're poor, because you lacked capacity to deal with the world, then of course that's a self-amplifying, self-destructive process, which is unnecessary to allow to happen, because there's enough for everybody to go around. And so the first thing you need to do is tell people to not feel guilty. Well, if you want to translate that to today, then the message would be very simple. Don't feel guilty about being in debt. Don't feel the debt as guilt. That's the big trick. The big trick is that they loan you money and you feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it. Stop doing that immediately. And then let's say that's one of the little mind fucks that you can abolish from yourself. And of course the other one is forgive. Because if you are, and that's I think also a very good lesson emotionally, because you might be in a fight but keep it local. Keep it in the place where you have the fight. Don't feel angry. I think that's a very good one. You waste an enormous amount of times being angry about something. Why? Because your mind wants to be in the position to fix it, but you have so many other thoughts that you're not going to put yourself in a position where you actually face the challenge, or you face the adversary that you're angry at, and you basically are, they say, might do something that might basically finalize the conflict. So you're stuck with it. Create virtual environment where you say, I forgive you, and you're done. This is psychology, very basic psychology, which I think was a little bit of an invention in the time that people were analphabetic, usually didn't read, didn't hear much stories, weren't taught very much, and of course were learning to deal with modern society as they had in that day. And but it still applies today. It still applies today. If you were poor, don't feel bad about it. Don't feel bad about it, and once you remove the guilt, remove the idea that you are somehow less, you are immediately, let's say, material to be the authority again, which means that you are so, and then you automatically will try to get things under control, which you otherwise wouldn't do, because you kind of are stuck in a place where you think, well, other people will control me. Occupy Wall Street. Wall Street should forgive the debt. We should, of course, not feel guilty about the debt. Once people, let's say, if all Americans today wouldn't feel guilty about their mortgage or anything else, simply look at it as a number, and think, well, that's a number I cannot, in any freedom handle or deal with. So it's a meaningless number. It's not going to apply to me as a human being. I need a life. I deserve it. I can also achieve it because, of course, after all, I have arms and legs. I can walk. I can talk. But for that, I need possessions. Things would turn around. People would start saying, well, okay, give me something I can work with. Make sure that I have my energy, that I can build my society. You see, that's a different thought process that will happen once you realize that there's a feeling of guilt associated with that you should forget about. And what could so what happens then is, like in Washington, somebody stands up, has an epiphany, like our Queen Beatrix had an epiphany, or not an epiphany, but a true nice realization about the ecosystem, which is, I'll mention a little bit later. But and Obama says, we now have the Commissioner of Debt Redemption. His name is, I don't know, just for fun, I'll let Timothy Geithner do that job. And he'll just, whatever debt you have, you can come to him, write him a letter, and he'll forgive your debt. You won't have it anymore. But you have to write a letter, you have to explain it, and you have to be in detail, because you have to be, you have to address the guilt that you have, very specifically. And he'll write you a letter back, and he'll say, okay, you're forgiven. Timothy Geithner will do that, or Ben Bernanke, or Lloyd Blankfein, and he'll do it for every American at the moment, or everybody in the world actually, because it's like America focused. Goldman Sachs is everywhere. It's completely useless. I'll forgive you. You now own what you were paying for and were indebted about. Ta-da! That would be interesting. Why? Because there's so much. Let's say. Well, that would completely flip a switch, I think, in many minds. Because suddenly you're free, you can do whatever you want. But of course, it's as virtual as any deity that Jesus might be talking about. Because you will never go to Washington and see Timothy Geithner. He might be frozen and cryogenically stored in some landfill in Buenos Aires. They basically They made a wax statue with a little bit of animatronics, and he nods peacefully like a Buddhist, like a Buddha statue. They let this German or this Austrian guy plastinate him, make him out of polyester with some little servos inside, and he's just like the God of the New Testament, forgiving, not existing. And for the people that experience that, it's virtual. Government is virtual. I guess Napoleon said it, and I forgot the quote, but he said, well, most of what people experience in life is virtual. That's what they refer to. Well, anyway, so that's my my Christmas analogy. To come back to my Queen Beatrix, she's also my queen. I think it's very good what she did. She said, well, we're endangering future generations. We're too eager to deplete our resources, natural resources, and they're finite. And we are too eager for money. And that's interesting to come from a queen of a country that has the biggest oil company, has the biggest oil storage facilities, has the gas rotonde, which is the big gas distributor for Europe, is going to be it. To have that realization, so maybe it's a turn of Holland to and what about the Bilderbergs? You know, how can they? We're not used to having a queen that just does this. She's not Obama, and she's quite smart actually, and she keeps track of everything that happens in politics. She's not allowed to have any influence, but lo and behold, she has a memory, so she can always remark things that help the situation. And I'm very happy about it, because I did a campaign with the Climate Babes. I'll put a link to the competition, you can see it. This April on Queen's Day, asking her, are you sustainable? Is your life sustainable? And so now she's answering. And funny thing is, I think another thing to say is, I had my Christmas dinner in a museum with all kinds of stuff from more than a century old, and that's all sustainable stuff. I mean, if you have a cupboard that's more than 100 years old, that's efficient. IKEA is not efficient. Anyway, and of course the Queen is a good example of having all kinds of houses with old stuff in it, and she never buys new furniture. She doesn't have to. It's still good. She treats it well. She doesn't destroy it. It's not trendy, but it looks beautiful. Maybe we should all go Tudor or whatever. That would be good. Go Tudor, and if you want to throw something in at the guys in Wall Street, throw Bibles. And if you get a Christian right fundamentalist talking about the rapture, tell him to go rap Wall Street, rap the dead. I guess we have to call for a dead rapture. That would be basically that would be some poetic justice in that somewhere. Thanks for listening.